Ciao ragazzi and benvenuti to the 13th episode of In the Shadow of Vesuvio. My name is Henry Bell and I am speaking to you very far away from Vesuvio in the west of Scotland. But we have Michele Borelli at Napoli Tickets on Twitter, sat literally in the shadow of Vesuvio in Naples today. How are you, sir?
Hello everyone. Ciao Henry. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm still recovering from the league, from this amazing third place. When I say I'm recovering, I mean I'm recovering from all the celebrations, obviously, because yes.
Were you naked in a fountain?
I was naked in a fountain until 2 hours ago. Yes. Now, because we have to record the podcast, I said, okay, let's maybe 2 weeks of celebrations for this third place is enough. Yes.
Or the joint best defensive league record?
That a celebration would not be enough for that. I will just get a tattoo on my chest of the De Laurentiis face.
More of that later. Welcome everybody. And Michele, you're going to go on holiday soon, aren't you? You're off to the sunny climes of elsewhere. So we're going to be away for a couple of weeks. But we thought we couldn't leave you. We couldn't leave you, dear listener, with no Napoli news direct from the città itself, could we, Michele?
No, we couldn't.
So, to begin with, just to paint the picture of Naples and help us all settle in, what is number 13 in the Napoli tombola?
Number 13 on the tombola is the opposite of a filthy number. Unfortunately, and we're still waiting for those. But number 13 is Sant'Antonio da Padova, Saint Anthony from Padua, and so this week is a saint. It's number 13, and symbolically speaking, because maybe I haven't mentioned yet, but obviously every number is linked to some kind of meaning, symbol, person, animal, genitalia, whatever, and and those are also used to play the how do you call it, like the lotto. So there is a nice movie called Così parlò Bella Vista. I don't know if you've watched it, but it's one of the most famous Napolitan movies, and it's just a beautiful movie in general, very funny. And one of the scenes in this movie basically depicts a couple of old ladies going to a to a tombola specialist. So the story is that, and it's not the story of the movie at all. So it's just like some like 2-minute scene, some kind of like a parenthesis in the movie, and it's so funny. So these two ladies have dreamed about something, and they're going to this specialist because they want their dream to be interpreted. They want the dream to be turned into numbers, to play those numbers on the lotto. So they describe the dream they've had. So it's like, I dreamed of a knight on a horse, and he asks, it was the knight, I don't know, like riding the horse on grass or on a street, because the number changes otherwise. And he's loosely interpreting this dream based on the tombola, of course. So sure. So obviously Sant'Antonio da Padova is number 13, but it also means luck. So if you dream about like a lucky event, or Sant'Antonio or the number 13, they're all linked. So you're dreaming about number 13, Sant'Antonio, and something lucky, something miraculous.
Well,
it's going to happen.
It's funny you should mention this, Michele, because I don't play the lottery very often. Some people call it the stupid tax. I think that's unfair, because in the UK it does also fund lots of great cultural activities, and it may or may not have funded some of my cultural activities in the past. So I chose some new numbers for the Euro Millions, and I included the number 13 because if we were going to do our 13th show this week, and I got an email this morning, Michele. I have won £3.20 on the Euro Millions.
All right then, yes. I think I'm entitled to like a 20%.
You can have it. And if you think the ticket costs £2.50, I've made the first money we've earned from this podcast, Michele. We've earned 70p 35p each.
Nice.
Should probably give some money to Ken and Rafa as well. But we'll
nah, it's okay.
No. That's good. So we are going to get to. I'm just looking ahead. Like, when's the first bit of filth? Oh yeah, in a few episodes.
No, don't. I haven't looked at it. I just want to. I want to be surprised. Because I don't know them by heart. I know like 6, 7, 8 numbers by heart. Like the most famous, maybe 10. But maybe a little bit more than those. But there are 90 numbers, so there are too many. I don't know all of them.
Okay.
So yes, I want to be surprised.
We'll get there one day. So we've got San Antonio, and anyone listening to this who is like walking past a newsagent's or whatever, a corner shop, this is the lucky episode. So in you go, get yourself a lottery ticket and donate 35% of all your, 13% of your winnings to both Michele Borelli and Dr. Henry Bell. So
thank you.
How is Naples, by the way? How's the weather? Is there a heat wave, right, in Italy? Has it come?
I don't know if I would call it a heat wave. It's hot, yes, it's warm. All of a sudden it became very warm very quickly.
Some people would call that a heat wave, Michele.
Yeah, but it's not that hot, It's like I wouldn't call it a heat wave if it's still bearable. If I'm not sleeping in my underwear, it means that it's not that hot yet. Yes. No, you're welcome. You're welcome.
There you go.
So yeah, no, it's about 28, 29 degrees, which is still decent.
And what is bearable? What's your advice to somebody who finds themselves in a heat wave in Naples? What would be your premier advice of what to do?
Should I say like the boring stuff, like cover your head and drink plenty of water?
Well, no one's going to do that. So what's your sort of
go to the beach and swim? I don't know. Like Napoli in July and August it's I don't know. For me at least it's unbearable. Like it's kind of nice because there are no, like, the locals are not there, right. Which doesn't mean I don't like the locals. It just means that the streets are empty and it's very quiet. It's a very quiet time in August. Like all the shops are closed and everything, like the city stops existing basically for a whole month, and it's kind of enjoyable for a change. And but it's also way too hot. So I don't know, like go to the beach.
Go to the beach. Yeah, there's not many beaches in Naples though, are there?
That's true. In
the city itself.
Sadly, yeah, that's a very sad fact about Napoli. It hasn't always been the case. Napoli was full of beaches. Yeah, like a long time ago actually. But then I think in the beginning of the last century, they did some like a lot of renovations about the city, like the lungomare that we all know, the seafront of Napoli, that didn't exist. Like the actual street, Via Caracciolo, the street where Sorbillo is and where the Villa Comunale, the park is, and Ciro, Chalet Ciro, and all the other, like even Castel dell'Elmo, all that street over there, the seafront. There was a very long beach before, and then they built a street over it. And
I know, I read this because probably my favorite, apart from going to see the football, my favorite bit of my most recent visit to Naples was on the day of the match. When I got back, we just spent like 3 hours walking along that whole part, and we got a really good pizza, so just on the edge of Chiaia. But then we found out that was all a beach. That would be imagine that now.
No,
make it happen.
It's way too painful. Like it's sometimes it's been discussed. Like it is discussed in Napoli, because Napoli is basically like a sea city without any beaches, which is crazy, And there are some
Barcelona or somewhere like that. I mean,
yeah. But even I think they did some like artificial beaches, to be honest. But there are some talks, but they've been going on for years now, because Bagnoli, the whole neighborhood, obviously it's I think we talked about that. It's very empty right now because there were some metallurgic industries, some factories there, which were dismissed like many years ago. But the soil there is still polluted with heavy metals, so it hasn't been well. it's good and bad. Obviously, it's bad because it's polluted, but again, it's no one goes there because it's kind of enclosed in this area. You know, like you can't have access to it, and that is the bad part. The good part is that obviously it kind of, because of that, it resisted the expansion of the city, like the unauthorized expansion of the city. You know, a lot of areas were are very aggressively built with residential buildings, so it doesn't, like, a lot of like new areas don't make any sense. But Bagnoli obviously resisted that, and now it's empty. It's polluted but empty. So it's been like they've been talking about that for 30 years now. You know, like what to build there, how, like what to clean, and I don't know how many hundreds of millions of euros have been wasted doing nothing. You know, it's a shame. And but there are some projects, and one of the projects which I really liked was building a huge public park there, and also build a very long beach there. I remember the renderings of the project. They were amazing. Obviously, it's still stopped and no one is doing anything right now, but it was very nice. And yeah, I mean, as some of you know, one of the project was also building the Napoli's new stadium there. De Laurentiis said, not De Laurentiis said so himself once. He literally tweeted like a picture of Bagnoli and said, "This is gonna be Napoli's new home." Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, obviously that didn't happen. No. But yeah, like, he literally said that. It was a dream come true because I've been talking about that. Like, I seemed crazy to a lot of relatives and friends. You know, they were like, I was for years like, we have to build a new stadium in Bagnoli. There is space, you know, like it's the perfect area. You know, there are train stations. It's easy to reach from the.
It is really well connected, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you know, it's the country. You know, the government, the national government wants someone to develop the area. So I'm sure, you know, it's not too far from the actual stadium too. So the current stadium too. So it was
on the same train line, isn't it? The same train line.
Kind of, yeah, but obviously that didn't happen because well, it's hard to build a stadium if you don't want to spend money. So
okay, so this is a good moment to talk about what we're going to talk about today. So I rather enjoyed that. I think if anyone listening got any memories of Bagnoli, please share them with us. If you're an architect who's very well connected to both Neapolitan local politics and also Italian national politics, then please do get on with building some more beaches. Although we love Naples just as it is. So what we're going to do today is we're going to have a bit of a chat about Aurelio De Laurentiis, because he's been very much in sort of opening his mouth in public, as he tends to do. And we're going to talk a bit about that. And then I'm going to delight, confuse, and possibly offend the world with a series of bizarre questions to Michele to hopefully wrap up the season and give out, I wouldn't call them awards, but sort of, I would say, definitions of our players and staff over the course of the season. So it's going to be a mixture of heated discussion and ridiculous whimsy, which is what I hope is our MO as a podcast. So ADL this week has come out, that would be quite the news. He's come out and started making some of the noises that, again, Michele, you predicted last week. You are the oracle, the Napoli oracle, most suitable with Napoli's Greek roots as a city. But you were saying that, you know, you can always spot it because ADL starts making these strange noises about the city and about money. And lo and behold, he talks about Mertens and Koulibaly. Have you got it in front of you, or could you just summarize what he was saying for our dear listeners, please, Michele?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have it in front of me, but I know them by heart because it's every time that. Okay, I'll try to restrain myself. Every time our president speaks, you know, obviously it has an impact. So he also tends to speak very freely, like it doesn't have any limit, you know, in what he wants to say once he has to say. So it is interesting to listen to what he says because it's not filtered. And
say that again.
So I do read what he says very carefully. So I think the press conference, well, the excuse for this press conference was like announcing the summer retreat. Both summer, I think they were announcing the one in the second one, because now we have two, obviously. They were announcing the second one in Castel di Sangro, which is a
Yep.
very nice place. I've been there, not for the retreat, but I've been there.
You're a man of
they
the
were.
world.
Yeah, so obviously every time he talks, like every time he's in front of the press, he can't contain himself. So he talks like it just starts talking. Even if the question is not for him, he just answers, which happened a lot during this press conference. So like they asked him. Well, I will just ignore the questions about the retreat, because they're kind of boring. He just said the stuff about, like, yeah, this place is very nice. They've been asking me to go to the US instead of retreating, like summer retreats in Italy, but I think that's not good for the fitness of the players, because they are better off training instead of like traveling around the world, which is good. I agree with that. So that's nice. But then obviously they asked him some questions about, the Koulibaly, Ospina. They asked him questions about Mertens, Fabian, all these questions. And he went back to his old script, and he's been doing that for a long time. I just find it very funny in a way, because he accuses people of what he's guilty of. Like he accuses people of being attached to money too much, and well, he is attached to money, and he should be, because he has a business to manage. So
Yeah,
it's
he's an
it's
owner,
fair.
it's a businessman.
Absolutely, it's fair. It's fair that, I mean, why would you not try to get the best, like the most amount of money possible when you're trying to sell a player, and why would you not negotiate to pay the least amount possible when you're buying a player? That's just common sense, right? It's a little bit intense when he does that, and sometimes it hasn't paid off, but that's arguable. It's
I think that is one of his actual qualities. I think a lot of people who don't support Napoli, who perhaps aren't in the city or aren't even in Italy, think about Napoli as a club where it is hard to buy the players from. And I think that's a good thing mostly. I agree that it creates an intensity around the whole Mercato situation. And particularly it gets quite difficult when you're trying to sign players, and he's essentially just squabbling over really quite insignificant things. Don't get me started on image rights, mamma mia. And it can actually keep some real talent away from the club. So, okay, let's just go back to, what are his old tricks? So there was a little bit of argument about the exact translation of the phrase he used, but I essentially saw it as he said that, like, they have to make a lifestyle choice, essentially.
No, I tweeted about. I read the tweet from, I think, Tony. I think it was.
Yeah.
And he literally used the vile money words. He literally he said "vile moneta." When Tony tweeted that, he said there was mistranslated. I went back to the video, because I didn't watch the video of the press conference. I only read the transcript, but it was a very precise transcript. But then I went back to the video. I skimmed through it, because it was like an hour and a half of rambling, and I found the exact part of where he was talking about the money, and he literally said vile moneta, which means literally translated as vile coin, which is vile money. It's the same thing. So but basically the idea is, and he's done that in the past with many players. He basically said, I made my offer, and now they have to decide whether they love Napoli more than they love money, because accepting my offer also means accepting a philosophical lifestyle of living in Napoli, and Napoli's great, Napoli's blah blah blah, and and that bothers me a lot. And
but this comes off the bat, and this is my neutral arbitrator role here, Michele. So this comment comes against the context of Napoli finalizing 3 signings at the very beginning of the Mercato. Anguissa's loan move becoming permanent. The Uruguayan left back coming in, his name is gone out of my head. Oliveira. and the Georgian winger. Okay.
Yeah.
And
say the name.
I'll get there. I will learn how to do it. I will do it. And I mean, I have a name that Italians can't really pronounce. Henry. It seems very difficult for Italian, and that's fair enough. So a lot of people tweeting or commenting, most of whom aren't in Naples, saying that I don't understand why people are always criticizing ADL. He always spends money. And I suppose what you've opened my eyes to a bit, and these thoughts were in the back of my head, is that that's not really the issue. I don't think anyone's ever questioned the money that ADL spends on players. I think generally speaking, we tend to recruit as high a caliber as player as we possibly can. Sometimes it goes right, sometimes it goes wrong. My problem is exactly this kind of stuff at the press conference, which is, I would say, alienating the talent that exists within the club and shortening the Napoli careers of talented players. And I've got other problems with him as well, which is more to do with the infrastructure of the club. But would you say that's fair, that there is an issue with this no filter, in the sense it just pisses off the dressing room? Do you think we've lost players sooner than we should because of ADL?
I mean, I don't think we lose money. We lose players because it's unfiltered. I wouldn't know, because we really don't know what goes on behind the scenes.
Well, no, I mean, but also his financial approach to.
No, the financial approach, I think, is fine. I mean, it's obviously the nickname people here have given to him is the pimp, Pappone, and which I just like how it sounds, so I use it too. Pappone. But it's Pappone. I just love it. And yeah, I mean, obviously that has some kind of like financial connotation. It means that he basically uses the club to make money for himself, and that is partially true, and it's also fair in a way. Like I do understand. I think that's a very basic critique of De Laurentiis. Like, oh, you should spend more money. I think probably this is something every fan says about every owner of every club ever.
Absolutely.
So that's to be expected. It's obviously if we haven't had a proper left back for years, so people were like, "Oh, spend the money." He also said that in the press conference in Napolitan. Like, yeah. People come up to me and said, "Oh, catch his sword, buy the players." He said in Napoli, and it doesn't even, with a weird accent, whatever. And that is to be expected. He's the guy who decides. I mean, everyone wants, like Messi, and obviously, you can't expect the average fan to know that we can't afford to pay 10, 15 million euros to players per season. So that's kind of basic, but that's not the problem. The problem with the Laurentiis is that he's been consistently talking, let's say, bad about the city, and the city, the fans, the stadium, the mayor, the country, everyone. He complains a lot, and I don't like it that, like one day he talks very badly about the culture, he talks very badly about the city, nothing works, people, the fans are frustrated by their wives, and they say stuff because they're frustrated, and stuff like that. And then a day later he says, "Oh, but players should remain because Napoli is amazing, and they should accept the philosophical idea of the Napolitan life." So he's basically using the city and the greatness of the city to save money, because that's what it is, right? And that's regardless of the fact whether whether Napoli is able to pay this kind of wages to players or not. Like, I don't.
Okay.
Like, he's offering, I don't know how much to Mertens, for example, and that's arguable. Like, I would like him to stay, but not for any amount of money. He just decided. Like, my problem with him is he's offering probably less than what he deserves, what Mertens deserves, with the Napoli excuse. The excuse of, oh, they have to stay here.
And he's using. So that's interesting. So I've never heard it explained so clearly. So, and this is this is quite a nuanced point here, Michele, in the sense that he's using the name of the city and also the culture of the city to serve his own agenda. So one day he's criticizing it and complaining about it. The next day he's saying it's the greatest place in the world. And so there's a sense that this is a phony connection to the city, right? That there's a sort of sort of bullshit to this, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't realize it. I'm sure that he believes 100% whatever he says. He doesn't. He's a narcissist, you know. He doesn't, like, he believes his own lies, and everything that works with the club and in the city is due to him, and it's his doing, and whatever doesn't work is someone else's fault. Like, he said that countless times. He always, like, every press conference, he brags about the number of fans Napoli has worldwide, which is like he paid some kind of consultant Deloitte, I think he paid, to make some kind of like worldwide survey about how many fans Napoli has around the world. And he mentions, I don't even know the number because it's ludicrous. It's like 80 million. I don't know, something. I don't know, whatever.
40 million, but I remember hearing that.
No, it was more than that. He said several millions just in the US. He said this. I don't remember the number, but it was like a big amount, like 10 million. I don't know, something like that.
Well, there are lots of fans in the US. I wouldn't go as far as the 10 million, but we'll see. I mean, I think this is quite important, and I think this is something that perhaps gets missed if you're supporting the club at a distance, is that, you know, we talked about the city a lot and the identity of the city and the very specific feelings that people have who are from the city. And so the idea that it's really his approach to that, the way he uses that as someone who is from, as you said last week, from Rome. So that is really at the center of the offense that a lot of the people in the stadium take towards him.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's not a likable person. He's really not. It's I have a lot of anecdotes, like private anecdotes about him as well. Like, obviously there are rumors, but as I said many times, I believe these rumors 100%.
Our rumors section. We just need to have a lawyer, and then we can start this rumors section. Okay.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, probably. But I've heard a lot of rumors about, you know, how De Laurentiis conducts business in the city, and you know, it's just again, think about that. Think about him criticizing Spalletti for not loving Napoli, and as proof of his. I mean, he obviously didn't really say Spalletti doesn't love Napoli. He just said he has to find his love for Napoli. He says something like that, and he mentions the fact that the Spalletti doesn't have a home. He hasn't bought any or rented any. Spalletti lives in a hotel. I think we talked about that. Yeah,
so last week, and it's the same hotel that ADL lives in.
Yeah, and it's funny that, you know, like, he's the number one Napoli fan. He's the Napoli lover, biggest Napoli lover in the world, and he himself in 15 years has never lived in Napoli. He's always lived in a hotel, whatever that is. Hotel.
Do we know what hotel this is, by the way? Do we know?
Hotel, probably Hotel Vesuvio.
Where's that?
I think it's on the seafront.
So you got the fancy ones. You got like the Excelsior and all that.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure, but it's one of those. Yeah, I think it's the Vesuvio though.
Whenever I'm in Naples, I walk past those hotels, and I think one day I'll be able to stay in one of those, but unfortunately not. Maybe when we get our multi-million-pound sponsorship deals on this podcast, we'll be able to broadcast out of one of those places. But so I think that's quite an important point to make. And I think that gets missed. And I don't think anyone who criticizes ADL criticizes him for not spending money on transfers. I think there is an issue with the wage structure of the club. And I think for me, there's also something about, there is something about the club sort of plateauing, which is down to ADL's principles, where he hasn't developed the infrastructure at all, has he? In terms of, you've been talking about, we have to hire the youth facilities like you would if you were hiring a pitch to play five-a-side on. There's a sense that the social media channels, I mean, I know a lot of people don't really give a shit about that stuff, but like, they are run in quite an amateur way. There's really badly translated English and stuff like that. There isn't that sense of turning ourselves into a club that can compete on the same level as Juve, Inter, Milan, even though we finished above all of those clubs over a variety of times over the past 10 years. And I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity. And I think a more savvy, contemporary, modern business person would have made much more out of that opportunity and secured a kind of longer term legacy for the club than what ADL has done. Is he seen as a bit old fashioned, or is this something that's more from me from the outside looking in?
I wouldn't say he's seen as old fashioned. I wouldn't.
Or is it seen as a missed opportunity? Is it seen as like we actually could have kicked on and become this definitely major player in Italy, but also a player on the European stage, to a point where we don't have to depend on people like Maradona turning up and winning us a Scudetto, or individual talent like Cavani or people like that. Whereas we could have actually developed a club that could actually be run in a way where we can consistently compete for trophies.
Yeah, no, I agree, but that's my opinion. I think when people say that they don't like him and that there is a lot of people here who don't like him, I don't know anyone who actually likes him here. But maybe because I am in my bubble, so
I was there in Curva B, man, and like,
but Curva B, it doesn't. It's like it's not representative of the whole city. Again, if you go to Tribuna, then you have a different experience, And the Curva
B.
Did you hear
the rumor? Did you hear the rumor, Michele? The game that we were at, there was piped in booing sound that ADL played.
Yeah. It's.
Did you notice that? Because I remember you said to me, all those boos were very loud from the tribune.
Yeah, that was the first time. Was immediately busted, and I'm extremely embarrassed by it, and it's amazing that no one is talking about that. They literally played boos and whistles from the audio system of the stadium when the Curva started their chants against De Laurentiis. That is, I don't agree with all those chants. I disagree, especially that day. You remember, I disagreed with them. But that doesn't mean you can play boo. What kind of, come on, like it's SSC Pyongyang? What is...
Well, yeah, I was listening to the Rigoro podcast, two amazing Scottish Italian dudes. And yeah, they said it was a North Korean approach to football ownership, which I think is probably true.
I agree.
So I think that's important in this wonderful community that exists online, and sometimes we do occasionally fall out about things. But I think that in terms of the ADL situation, I think it's important that there's some nuance and there's some focus about how we talk about him, and it's not just about how much money he spends. And we might have a great mercato this summer, despite the worries that we've got. But that doesn't necessarily change some of the quite important cultural issues that there are between the city and Aurelio De Laurentiis.
No, Harry, here's the thing. I've talked to a lot of people. I know I talked to some people, I mean, not Italian, not from the city. So Americans and stuff who have a different opinion about De Laurentiis. I think the problem, if there is a problem, I mean, I can definitely see a difference in opinions between people who are from Napoli and people who are not. And it's surprising to me how surprised people are when they come to Napoli and they say, "Oh wow, it's really hated here." I've been thinking about it for a long time. I think if you listen to him speaking, I think maybe because a lot of people are not Italian speakers, so they don't listen to his press conferences. They just judge his results, like sport results, and that's not the problem, Like obviously, I mean, we can talk about that, but I do have my critics about De Laurentiis strategies over the years, but like it's very hard when you're not doing there, making decisions and taking choices. It's very hard to judge in a way, Like he bought Rog, Tielisky, and Diavarao for the Higuain money, and he wasted. But I mean, personally, I don't know any other player, so I'm not. So it's very hard to judge that. And the problem again is not, it might be a little bit about the fact that we haven't won much. We haven't won the Scudetto yet, the missed opportunity, but people are really not about that. Like when Sarri was here, we didn't basically buy any player for 3 years while Sarri was here, and it was the best. I think it was the best experience as a Napoli fan in my life.
Well, it's the highest quality.
3 years.
Yeah, highest quality football. I've seen. I think even in there was there were moments of the Maradona era where the whole team played brilliant stuff, but it was up there with what Sarri did. And I think, well, I think it's different podcasts, but I think if Sarri had just signed a couple of players, we would have won that Scudetto. We got Politano, the goals dried up. If we had a better roster of players to play up front, it might have made a bit of a difference. But yeah, I do agree. But I do think people need to be aware of your Zoom background, Michele. So could you just tell us who we have in the background?
Magister Comandante Maurizio Sarri with a Napoli shirt, obviously, behind me. Yes, and
but no cigarette.
No cigarette. I don't know what happened there, but he was probably lighting a new one.
It's probably
I'm guilty. I'm guilty of still loving Sarri, even after he went to Juve. It's just like I honestly I've loved him way too much. My friends made fun of me during those 3 years because I was literally obsessed with this man. They made fun of. I was honestly like every time someone spoke of his name, I started like screaming, and I was like a little girl with One Directions kind of fandom. It was amazing. I even went to the retreat in Di Maro,
nice.
Once. Yeah.
Well, because you wanted to see the team train. I wanted all the stories of like the drones and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and he was walking under the tribuna at Di Maro, and I just screamed, at the top of my lungs, Grande Maurizio. I just like, yes, Grande Maurizio, and he looked at me and waved at me, and then the whole tribuna started clapping, but they didn't know that he wasn't waving to the whole tribuna; it was waving to me. Because I was the one who
face like this in 13 episodes, Michele. Just to describe to the listener, there's a smile of pure, like, when like someone fancies someone at school and they're trying to pretend that they don't like them, and then you've mentioned their name and they just can't help but smile. That's exactly what's just happened, everyone.
Pure joy. I was like, as my friends, I was crazy about this guy, and for good reasons, I think. But my point was obviously we didn't win anything. Like we didn't win a Coppa Italia during those years, but it was still the best experience for many Napoli fans. So what the average Napoli fan wants is not necessarily winning in the Scudetto. People don't hate De Laurentiis because he hasn't won a Scudetto yet. People hate De Laurentiis. I mean, hate is a strong word, but yeah, there is a strong dislike in De Laurentiis because he's very egocentric. He's a narcissist. He says one thing and then the other day he says the opposite. For example, I think yesterday, 2 days ago, when he had the press conference, I found it very funny. I remember the things he says. So I take a particular dislike too, because in my memory, I don't have a particularly good memory, but for some reason, I'm cursed with a good memory about De Laurentiis' statement. So one thing he said was, it was so funny. He mentioned the fact that for many months this season, he hasn't had any press conference. He hasn't spoken to the media for a long time, which is true. And he said, I didn't do it because I wanted to protect the coach. Because if we lose a game that we should win, I could say some things. And I could say, oh, I should have played this player or that player. But then again, when he wins some games that we shouldn't have won, then I should praise him. So I want him to work I want to protect him. I want to defend him because he said the coach is the most important collaborator of mine, so of the owner, the president. So I need to protect him. He said, can you imagine if we lost a game and I went out to the media and criticized him? Can you imagine how detrimental that would be? And the first thing I thought was, well, a lot of bad words, but then I thought, do you remember when we lost against Real Madrid in Madrid? And the first thing he did was going to the media exactly right after the game against Real Madrid, a Real Madrid which would win 3 Champions Leagues in a row. I think after in the next 3 years, we lost 3-1 there, and it was a good game to be honest. But the first thing he did, he went to the media, the Italian media at the Bernabeu, and he said, "Sarri made the wrong decisions."
We talked about this a couple of episodes ago.
I think it remains the most shocking interview I've ever heard him, give to Italian media. I said like the players were like, I'm ashamed of what they did. Just a couple of players played well. The whole approach was wrong by the coach, and I still think that is the reason why Sarri didn't stay, because again, you lose in Madrid against Real Madrid 3-1, and you have to hear from your boss, from your owner, we lost because like all the
I
wrong
remember being
choices. And
shocked. I remember
yeah,
being shocked
so
at the time as well. I think,
yeah. And now he
I think
says, he says the opposite. I mean, he learned, I guess. He
so. If
learned.
we're gonna compare, so I mean, it's interesting. I think a lot of people listening will be thinking, well, hang on, you've got ADL. He's devoted his life, not his life, but a lot of his focus to this club, getting the club back in Serie A. And you got Sarri, who we had 3 wonderful years with, but then goes to Juve. But so what's going on here? But I think perhaps my impression is that it's to do with understanding the culture of the city. And would you say, and showing respect to the city, would you say, obviously aside apart from the move to Juventus, that Sarri had a better understanding of that and perhaps fitted in a bit more to that sort of Neapolitan culture than ADL?
100%. 100%. It's not hard to be liked by Napoli fans. It's not hard at all, especially if you come from abroad, if you come from outside the city. Very easy to fool us into liking you, even if you want to fool us, if you're not honest about it. And Sarri, I do think he was honest. A lot of people said, he went to Juve, so he didn't mean anything he said about the city. But that's not true. I don't believe that. Sarri was one of us, and I'm not saying that. There was a Curva B banner saying that Sarri is one of us, and that they don't say it. Yeah, they don't say it lightly. I mentioned before that they don't single out players and coaches in their chants and stuff, because the mantra of the Curva B, of the Ultras in general, is only the shirt. But sometimes it might happen only with banners, not really with chants, that they might praise, like individual, like specific players. They did that with Insigne for the last game.
Yep.
And with Sarri, they did it 2 or 3 times. Sarri was definitely recognized as one of us. He was born in Napoli. It's not really Napolitan. That's symbolic, but he was born in Bagnoli, actually. Yeah, because it's I think his father was working in the factory I was talking about, actually.
Yeah.
And
really, the one with the
I
heavy
think so.
metals?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And he said he was a Napoli fan when he was a child. I do believe that, because he mentioned some like very specific anecdotes about it. And it's just like, at the end of the day, he just understood what it means, to be Napolitan, what it means to support this team, like the immense pride we take into supporting the team, and how the team and the city are one thing.
But
they're
then
not
he went
divided.
to manage Juventus. Michele.
Yeah, we can talk about that another time.
Okay,
maybe,
but have you forgiven him?
Yes. I think
has everyone in Naples forgiven him?
No, not at all. Not at all. He's not. No, it's not. No, it's not liked here. No, it's no. But then again, I do think if he comes back, I do think it would take him like 2 weeks to be loved again. That I do believe. Now he's not liked. Now he's not liked at all. And when Lazio came to Napoli, I think it was in October or November, he was heavily booed when his name was mentioned. And I mean, it's very hard to. It was kind of a betrayal in a way. That is true, but it's. I think it's more complex than that.
I think and I think I agree that if he was to come back, it would not take any time. If the team started winning and playing well, for those sins to be forgiven. But I think it's interesting. I'm just remembering in England in the 1990s, there was an owner of Newcastle United who made some disparaging comments about women from Newcastle, and it didn't take very long for that owner to be got rid of, and the fans hated him. It's slightly different to ADL, but there is a sense really all around the world that the owner of a club needs to understand the culture of the city that club's in, unless you're some oligarch that's pumping in billions and billions and billions and billions of pounds. But I personally don't want someone like that running a football club that I support. Anyway, I hope that was interesting for people, just to get a bit of insight and nuance into some of these issues around ADL. I've got some questions for you, Michele, about the team this season.
All right.
Now these, you've got your Joe, and you've got your Raf and Raf, and you've got your shows like Stadio and the Guardian Football Weekly, great podcast, Rigore, the Italian Football Podcast. You've got Serie A, Sit Down. These are all great shows that will ask the right questions. I'm going to ask the wrong questions now, and I just want you to answer them without thinking. Okay.
All right.
So
I have no idea what you're about to ask, by the way. I mean, this was not agreed.
The first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a pasta five-a-side. So I'm going to give you a name of a Napoli player who's in my five-a-side team of the season. Maybe not even that, actually. I might go a bit more random than that. 5 Napoli players, and I want you to tell me what pasta dish they are based on their performances this season. Now, don't overthink this.
Okay.
So we're going to start with our favorite player, I think. Lobotka. What is he?
Pasta al forno.
Pasta al forno. Perché?
You said not overthink it. I don't know. I think about Lobotka, and I just think about pasta al forno. You know, like I don't know. It's
what is pasta al forno? Can you just explain?
A pasta al forno is a oven baked pasta. So you cook pasta like you would cook like a normal pasta dish, and then you put some cheese in it, you put some meatballs in it, and then you put it in an oven tray and you bake it in the oven for a few minutes, hours.
When you think of Lobotka, you think of baked meatballs. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe it's just the shape, you know, but obviously I love pasta al forno and I love Lobotka. So those are two things. And yeah, I mean, pasta al forno also, you can't, now that I think about it, once it's out of the oven, you can't eat it right away. And sometimes it's better to eat it like a day later when it's cold and reheat it. And Lobotka was the same, you know, as soon as we bought him, it wasn't really great. And then we let it rest for a season. And then a season later, he became this amazing pasta dish, which is impossible to hate. And also I ate it yesterday. So, 2 days ago, actually.
This is metaphors off the scale. Lovely. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So we've gone from your favorite dish. Now I'm going to ask you what pasta Alex Merritt is.
Oh, Jesus. What pasta Alex Merritt is, I would, I'm going to be very controversial now, maybe. The first pasta I think is maybe a couple. He's either pasta all'insalata or a pasta genovese. Those are two pasta which I don't particularly enjoy, and they are, well, maybe it's more of a pasta genovese in a way, metaphorically speaking. It's a pasta which is, because it's very overhyped. You know, when you cook that pasta, it's one of the best pasta dishes in Napoli. Like if you go to a traditional Napolitan cuisine trattoria restaurant in Napoli, they will have genovese because it's very traditional. But for me, I don't like it because it's very heavy as a pasta. You know, it leaves me disappointed. And every time I love it because when I go to restaurant with friends, every time they say, you know, I can't wait to get pasta genovese. I say, okay, I mean, it's not really for me. Then they eat it, like they overhype it for like a long time. Then we go to the restaurant, they eat it, and we're like, you know, maybe you were right. It's not that, you know, I should have taken something else. And that's my experience with Meret. You know, like that's what it's been with Meret for me. You know, like I was like, we bought him and it's like, okay, yeah, sure. I mean, Meret, I mean, I don't know him. Then you eat him or you see him play, and everyone's like, it's amazing, so good. You know, he's best goalkeeper ever. I was like, I don't really see it. You know, it's like I don't like what I've always said to my friends. You know, it was I don't feel safe with him as my goalkeeper. You know, I just don't feel, he doesn't give me that safe feeling. You know, okay, and it's always like when everyone was hyping him, or everyone was hyped about Meret. You know, like, oh yeah, he's for sure great. You know, he's to develop. I was like, I haven't seen anything great yet. You're just projecting with your idea, you know, the idealization of a great young goalkeeper, because it was compared to Donnarumma a lot, like, so
I know there's all those arguments. People saying it was better.
sometimes there is this trend of like you get a very young goalkeeper, it's kind of good, and you say, it's gonna be great, and then it just doesn't happen. So yeah, Genovese, like the Genovese, everyone says, Genovese is great, but then they eat it and then they kind of regret it.
Do you feel
it's
safe?
Very heavy
Do you
with
feel
Genovese?
safe? What happens if it goes a bit wrong?
With Genovese?
Yeah. What ingredients are we talking about here?
A lot of onions and meat. It's a white pasta in a way with a lot of onions and a lot of onions aren't very easily digestible. That's why I don't like it, because I usually go out for dinner with my friends.
It's gonna come back.
I always regret it. So I don't take Genovese anymore. So
okay, so
restaurant at least.
We got two very strong answers. Let's do a quick fire final three. Okay, so just name them, Bosch. Victor Osimhen.
Victor Osimhen is spaghetti with fresh tomatoes.
Okay, classic, delicious.
Yeah, fresh.
Can't go wrong.
Fresh and easily digestible. Can be improved in many ways, especially if the tomatoes aren't good.
That's true.
A few ingredients, very few ingredients, but
needs a good team behind it. If you got a good chef with that, it's gonna be
very good ingredients. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But
okay,
few ones.
Lorenzo Insigne.
Pasta dishes, yeah.
Yeah, we can broaden it if you want. Food in general.
I don't know. Lorenzo Insigne could be a spaghetti con le vongole kind of dish.
What's that for listeners?
Seafood. Let's say seafood spaghetti. Spaghetti with mussels and I don't know how to say vongole. But yeah, it's a very probably. I mean, for me, in my mind, is the most traditional Napolitan pasta dish. Pasta spaghetti with seafood, and that's what Insigne is. And I could never get enough of spaghetti con le vongole, and same way I would have liked Insigne to stay. But
it could have been a bit more, and also it can go a bit wrong if you get the wrong kind of seafood in the system. Anyway, and
agreed.
Last but not least, without fail, the greatest player in the history of Napoli, Mario Rui. What pasta dish is Mario Rui?
I would say Mario Rui is maybe a puttanesca pasta dish.
Yes, mate. It makes sense. I love it. Why would you say that?
It's just spicy, it's kind of spicy. You can make it as spicy as you want. It's very rich in tomato sauce, and I do see that in Mario Rui when he plays, like tomatoes. It's Mediterranean stuff, It's kind of one of us in a way, and black olives, capers, and it can be spicy like Mario Rui can be, and just very it's
also quite solid, isn't it?
Yeah, solid, not too complicated at all. It's a not complicated dish, but it can be good when it's made good.
I think we should always do the podcast like this, to be honest. I think we're onto something here.
I'm hungry now, man.
I'm really hungry. Sorry, anyone listening who is about to have a meal or they can't get to food very quickly. Okay, I've got two more questions, then we will wrap things up. Let's imagine, Michele, that your scooter is broken.
No.
Okay. And you have to rely on a member of the Napoli squad to take you on their scooter around Napoli. Based on their performances this season, whose scooter would you feel most comfortable sitting on and being driven by?
Okay. It depends on what kind of experience I want to get.
Yeah, but it's you. So whatever experience you'd like to have.
It depends. It depends. Because if I'm taking the scooter on a Sunday or on a Saturday, I'm looking for something exciting, I'm like the difference I would say is if you're going to point A to point B, I want someone reliable, safe, who's not going to be very aggressive.
We'll start with that, and then we'll think about Sunday.
I want
Start with A to B.
I think I want someone confident, but not crazy. So, for example, I wouldn't say Lozano because Lozano strikes me as a kind of a very yeah, I don't want to say the word, but yeah, it's not very courageous. I would say, it would probably fall if he drove a scooter. That's what I think. But I don't want Rui as well because Rui would be the kind of guy who goes on the scooter without a helmet and
And screams at everyone. Yeah.
yeah, it just like goes around and yeah, like crazy guy, just shouting at everyone. Like it's my right of way, let me pass and stuff. So yeah, I wouldn't want both of them. I would probably go with the Koulibaly.
Koulibaly over Giovanni Di Lorenzo for A to B.
That's also a good pick.
Well, you can have Koulibaly. I'll have Di Lorenzo. Okay, that's good.
Probably Di Lorenzo is more reliable, but Koulibaly is more confident.
Yeah, true. And actually, that confidence was on the pitch a lot this season, and we did miss it when I wasn't there. Equally, Di Lorenzo's reliability was in buckets, and we did miss that as well. Agreed, okay, so your fancy drive on a Sunday. Who's driving you?
No, Mertens. There's no.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I also drive. I mean, I've seen some pictures of him going with Kat, like in Capri, driving a scooter around. It's he's 100% like the guy. I want to be on a scooter with to have fun. I want to have a coffee with him or whatever. I think it could be a lot of fun. Just to hang out with. Yeah.
I think instead of like there's that show like Coffees with comedians in cars or whatever it is.
Comedians. With the
Seinfeld.
Yeah, with Seinfeld. Yeah.
I think you should have your own show, Michele. Calciatore on scooters.
On scooters, getting.
Imagine the chaos.
Pizzas, yeah. I'd
love it. There we go. Make it happen. Producers out there, Netflix. I'm happy to be exec producer. We can negotiate. Okay, there we go. That's our. I've got one more. So you've got, because you've said in the past, Michele, that you follow anything just Napoli related on social media.
Like 80%, 90%.
Cousins, aunts, uncles of players. Why? So
yes,
one of the best things you can do in Naples, I think, is go to Castel dell'Elmo up in Mormoro. Best view in Naples. So it's a glorious day. You're going for a walk. You have to choose to go with a Napoli player and their spouse. Who do you choose and why? And I don't want to go down a sexist angle, objectifying angle. Just who do you think's the best couple to be around to have that interesting time in the castle and look at all those views together?
I mean, I don't want to repeat myself because I do think that Mertens is, again, the best one to hang out with. In terms of couples, yeah, that's a good question. Again, because I have many insights about Napoli couples and all the gossip surrounding the players. I'm not a gossip guy, but when it comes to the players,
it's too late. We all know you're a gossip guy, Michele.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, as a single, like if you take out the couple part, I would like to hang out with Lobotka too. I think it would be. He's single now, so he divorced from his.
Well, maybe you could be his wingman.
I would love it to be, so I can just imagine, but maybe not for a cultural event. I'm not saying he's stupid. Obviously, he's the smartest player ever. But maybe I wouldn't like. I would if I'm going to Castel Sant'Elmo. Yeah, there are good views, but also there's a lot of history there.
Very interesting.
There's a lot of stuff to learn. So I would want to go there with someone who has a brain, but is also fun to hang out with.
Got to be Ciro Mertens. It's hard to look.
100%. Yeah, I'm just thinking. Yeah, I wouldn't go. I'm trying to kind of like excluding some players.
And it seems like him and Kat have quite a lot of fun together as a couple.
Yeah, they love the city. They love the culture of it. I would go maybe. Yeah, well, I don't know. I wouldn't know. Like it's hard. Like Lozano is boring. I think it's very boring. Insigne, I don't think he would be interested in that. I mean, he's gone anyway, so.
Exactly.
Koulibaly maybe, but I don't know.
What about Rahmani? What's he like?
Yeah, it could be good. I don't think he leaves the city too much. But yeah, he
Interesting
could.
fella from Kosovo. It's got quite a
Yeah, I
story.
think so. Yeah, Di Lorenzo is also. He's very private. He doesn't share a lot. So I don't know.
Ospina. Actually, Davide Ospina.
Yes, but I don't like his wife.
Okay, forget about it. Okay, you're going with Ciro and Kat. The end.
Yeah.
And that says a lot about how Mertens, even this season, is still the person that we just love and trust. In fact, he can pick you up on a scooter and drive you to Castel Sant'Elmo.
And
there we
he's
go.
leaving, maybe. So yeah, that's dead.
You have to take the engine out of his scooter. That's our season wrap up, Michele. So before we go away, I think we got a lot of Naples into this episode, which I'm very pleased about. Neapolitan phrase of the week, please.
All right. So, okay, I'll just say it. The phrase is as follows: A lira fa ricco, a crianza fa signore. I repeat: A lira fa ricco, a crianza fa signore. Which is in Italian would be the lira, which is the money we used to have in Italy before the euro. Okay, so you could say money. Lira makes the rich, but good manners make the gentleman. Maybe you are.
You don't need to explain this.
Yes, right. Yes, the money makes you rich, but good manners make you a gentleman. Should I explain this one? I don't.
I think we know, and I think we know who this might be directed towards. So yeah, very good. I love the thematic links between things. Great. Okay. So anything you want to say before you go on hold for a couple of weeks to our faithful, loyal millions of listeners?
Yes, we can only hope that there will not be any more press conferences from De Laurentiis and everyone around him. It's one press conference has been enough, and he kind of threatened journalists to give two more, because he said, I haven't talked for the whole season, so I promise I will just have two press conferences where you will be able to ask me whatever you want. And I'm very scared of that, because every time he talks, it's something bad happens. There's always he said a lot of other things which I find very funny, and they instantly become memes. He said, memes. He complained about the whole country in general. He said, like, we want to be heirs of the Roman Empire, but we're actually heirs of the Visigoth and the Ostrogoth, because we are barbarians, basically, he said. But which I found hilarious, because obviously when you ask him a question, then you ask him a question about the Scudetto, and he literally ended up talking about Top Gun, the movie out now around the world. He said, in the US everything is amazing because look at the movies they made, and the question was about the Scudetto. So it's hilarious, and but I still hope that he doesn't. We need some peace and quiet, and there is a lot to do in this market. We have a lot of players, unfortunately, to replace. So hopefully just focuses on that.
In pure sporting terms, it's an encouraging beginning. Yes, very well put. You remind me to go and see that Top Gun film. Apparently it is good, but there we go.
He said so.
There we go. Thanks, Michele. Have a great holiday. And I think if ever there was an excuse to unplug for a couple of weeks, ADL threatening to give more press conferences is the best excuse. I'm going to, in your absence, record the penultimate episode of the Maradona Chronicles podcast series that are on the Far From Vesuvius Network with Rafa. So looking forward to doing that. And then when you're back, I'm sure we'll find something to talk about. Your mention of Grava has got everyone going. So we have to do that episode. And there'll be all sorts of fun stuff over the course of the summer. You can find Michele on Twitter at Napoli Tickets. You can find me at Henry Bell Calcio. And this podcast is part of the Far From Vesuvius podcast network at Far From Vesuvius. Take care, everybody, and Forza Napoli.
Sempre.
Sempre.
Sempre.